yoga's a way different beast than fitness. It really is.
And we have lots of people who have their 200-hour yoga certification who fail our exercise theory exam.
And there's a lot of people teaching yoga that do not have that.
Yeah. So, and they're not all the same, right? It's kind of, there's different studios that do them and different, so it's not, there's no kind of standard. I think there are something like 250 or even more than that yoga certification agents in Canada.
There's a couple. It's going through a transition right now. Yoga Alliance goes through their different changes as well.
Yeah. So that's why we require still that you either do our course, or if you have a higher level certification, then you can challenge in the exam, but you have to do practice evaluation. Any issues that someone has had evaluating that they wanted to kind of talk about?
I wanted, sorry.
Oh, no,
this is the issue.
I opened it up.
I just was wondering about, I did a video evaluation, and I was thinking after the fact, it was the first one I did. Do people who do video evaluations typically phone the person in advance before they view the video? Because I was thinking that might have been helpful to have a bit of a discussion, because there were things I was seeing in the class that I wasn't really understanding. So I was just wondering if there were people who do the DVDs and or talk to the person before they evaluate them.
So there's a couple different things. The DVDs is a great option.
Yeah,
so
sure,
unfortunately we have a large province, and so we do tend to get DVD evaluations. A lot of them are not good.
Yeah.
And the reason for it's we've had, and it's funny because I actually did a DVD evaluation myself just to kind of try it out, and my I didn't realize it, but my screen had moved pretty much as soon as I got to the front of the class, so you could see me, the top of my head, and so we get some of those because people say, I was there, I had my camcorder, I was all ready to go, I did my class. So you can hear them, or you can see them, or not always both.
Yeah.
You can't always see and hear. So there's a lot more situation creating that is required for something like that.
Often a volume thing.
That was my problem.
The volume,
The
volume is horrible.
Yeah.
We also get them in all sorts of weird and wonderful formats. So I think Ula has taken a number of them and not been able to play them on anything that she owns. She's like, I tried it on my DVD, I tried it on my computer at home, I tried it on my computer at work, I tried it on my
car.
So formatting is an issue. We've had people send them in when they weren't formatted at all, and then they can only be viewed by the camcorder. Then they sent the camcorder, so then it's been kind of quite a learning experience. So we've tried to put together some tips for if you're doing a DVD evaluation. We need to be able to see you. We need to be able to hear you. We hopefully can see some of your participants.
Yes.
But the aquatic ones they're a nightmare. But unfortunately, this is what we have to work with. So again, it's looking at that and determining what questions you can ask them, and almost always doing it by phone if you can do that, because the email just tends to kind of go on, and it's not helpful because you can't ask the questions that you need to and have the responses kind of come at the same time. So
Skype them.
Skype them, you can Skype them, you can FaceTime them, you can, none of which we pay for, but
Skype is free.
yeah.
WhatsApp.
Yeah. So there's tons of different options, and we're really trying to make it as flexible as possible, but at the same time be able to get the information.
Somewhat related, what's happening with the mentoring?
Mentoring.
Yeah, because I know it's provided by name several times.
Yes.
I've heard that, but I don't know.
The mentoring is a big
Sign 'em up.
challenge. So what happens is we tell people in the courses that we provide mentoring. Sometimes they call us, sometimes they don't, sometimes they know a friend that they've mentored with. We don't require them to mentor because we can't. We can't say, Natasha, she's out. Is there any other fitness leaders that where you are?
I have moved, so I am not as familiar with my area, my new area.
Okay.
I'm still rural though.
Okay. So mentorship is not always an option. So we do what we can to kind of fix people up, but we do try to match up people who are similar. So we try to match up people with people who teach something similar. We have been getting a lot of requests in the Westmount area recently, but they're all seem to be like 2 hours outside of Brandon. So then we're trying to find people that are kind of in that area, you know, as close to them as possible, and like I said, trying to match them up. And some people have even come in and done mentoring, I think with Stuart. I think you've had, well, you had one guy that I don't know if he ever came in. That's the other thing is I don't necessarily know. Once I've fixed up a mentor and a person, I usually don't hear from them again. So maybe it was good, maybe it was bad, maybe it didn't happen at all. I don't necessarily know. So yeah. So I will keep your name on the list. I mean, your name is on the list. I call you for lots of other things.
Give us all your number. If we get requests, we'll just send them to you.
It's only 2 hours, guys.
I just wanted to ask everybody in the room, as an evaluator, I've been around for a while, but the interesting part is I've probably failed about 3 people, and each one was kind of dear to my heart because they left quite emotional. But I just wanted to put it out there, how did you guys handle it, if you failed anybody, and what's the protocol if you should do an evaluation that's really bad, and you go through it, and they're like, hey, so? And I'm like, oh, how do I do this? How do I tell you? You know, that's why I'm asking, because I wanted to find out what's the best way without really making somebody, you know what, you didn't have. And then they just,
Shut down.
that's it. I can't even talk to them.
I always
I've done it 3 times, and each time I felt awful. I did. I really felt it.
Yeah,
And then, so how do you do that where you say to them, why don't you come back? Let's meet again in 6 months. Do I phone MSC office, or do I say, you know what, we're going to let the office talk to you? Is that okay? So anyways, I just want to put it out there because I want to know what the right protocol is. So.
I don't know if you're at that, but there was a evaluator workshop probably,
Yeah,
I'm going to say 15 years ago.
Yes.
And the guy there said, you should tell them first, and I totally disagree. If you tell them first they fail, they shut down, and they don't
I did that once.
They don't hear anything.
I did that once, and it was at Lonnie's place, it was an older adult evaluation. I lost her right there. She just lost it. She took off, and I was like, oh, now what do I do? And she came back, she says, I knew I was lousy, she said. I knew it, but I thought I'd try it anyways. And I was like,
all
well,
the benefit of that feedback.
It's like
it was tough.
breaking up with
It was
somebody.
really
You don't want to
tough.
stick around after they just broke up with you.
No, she took off, she went to another room, and then she came back, and then we talked about what I thought were some things that she needed to do, and I said, why don't I help you? I said, you can, this was long before we talked about the mentorship program, and I actually ended up working with her, and then she got evaluated later, but man, that was heart-wrenching. You know, being a sensitive person that I am, it was heart-wrenching for me. I just thought I'd put it out there.
You know, there's still some things you need to work on to make this happen.
Yeah. I think that by having the evaluation is an advantage because then they know what they're being tested to and they know the expectations. So when you sort of warm up and say, well, you did this very well, but you know there are some things that are key components because you've seen the evaluation, and if I didn't observe those,
Yeah.
we're going to need to have, another session with another evaluator. I'll come back whichever way. But I think that the having that up front to them helps them to soften the blow of, they know that that's what they were expected to do. So you have a bit of comfort expressing that when it's not, you're holding all the paper and all the answers, and they're going, I don't know what I was missing, kind of thing.
That's right.
Sometimes when you do an evaluation, I've had some leaders, I say, so what did you think? How did it go?
I always have
It
that
was
too.
really good. But I think I did this one thing wrong. You know what? I think you're right. Tell me why you think
They
that
know.
was wrong. Like, I like doing this role play thing. They said, well, I think that was the wrong exercise because oh yeah, did you do that? And so we get this little role play, but I actually ended up turning it all over to them. And then I go, oh, gotcha. Because if they can point out and know that they did it wrong, that's half my job.
That's right.
But it's tough.
Yeah.
So number one, it's not pass or fail. It's complete or incomplete. Because failing as an adult is hard. We deal with this in the office all the time. People fail exams. Sorry to tell you that, but people actually do fail. And it's not the people who didn't study. It's not. I mean, there are a million reasons why people fail the exams. Right? English is not their first language. They have test anxiety. they didn't know or understand the questions, or, you know, like there's a million different reasons. So basically, I mean, our process from the inside out, if people fail an exam, we call them. We don't email them. It says, will you please email me your results? We call them and they'll say, hi, Stephanie Glenn from the MMC. Could you just give me a call back? You know, because to get that email, that'll pretty much turn them off and they're not coming back. I mean, we've even had some people, it's funny because we have a lady who is retired, she's a retired principal. She's been in the education system her whole entire life. Unfortunately, she did not pass her exercise theory exam 2 times. Finally, you know, so I have taken the bull by the horns with this one, and we've had some tutoring sessions, we've had, you know, just trying to really kind of, she's on the Premier's Advisory Committee for Health too, which is difficult. So I've been trying to kind of work with her, but I mean, we do that for people. We work with people. So I mean, if someone is has had a really hard time and they're really committed to it, we have paid for tutors. So we have trainers that have tutored people on our behalf, and we have paid for that service because we, you know, people who are passionate and are really going to put in a good effort, we're gonna do the legwork to kind of get them through. So again, calling, you know, making that personal contact, you know. So again, if you have not passed the evaluation and then you get home and, you know, 2 days later you get that written piece from us saying, yeah, you still didn't, you really messed this one up, basically, right? You know, with all the details, it's not really that helpful. So that's why we don't do that. But so that's the way we kind of work through it. But the complete and incomplete. So more usually what happens is people will say, you know, I don't think you're quite there yet. Here are some things that I think you need to work on. Giving them very specific examples. So that's another thing that we need to kind of work on. Giving them specific examples. So here are the things that I really thought that you need a little extra work on. And so then setting up, and again, you know, I'm going to leave this up to you if you want to set up another time to go back and work with them. But if you could just, like I said, just let us know in the meantime. You know, I met with Lisa last night, things didn't go that well, but we've set up an appointment in 2 weeks. And maybe you're just seeing those pieces over again. Maybe it's not the whole class. Maybe there were some concerns that you had that could be easily addressed within 20 to 30 minutes. You don't necessarily need to see a whole 60 minutes class if everything was good except for these 2 or 3 things. So again, it's kind of, you know, leaving it up to you to kind of decide what that looks like. And the forms. So I know that Christine talked about it in the first one, but I'm not sure if she talked about it in the second one. The forms are a guideline. So I mean, you are not going to see everything necessarily that you think you need to see on the forms. The rating system on some of them, it's 1 and 2. We took it from a rating system and that was 1, 2, and 3, but the problem is if someone is kind of mediocre, but they're meeting the standard, they actually don't necessarily pass because the points don't add up. So so that's why I really don't like the point system. They either do it or they don't do it. And there are national evaluation forms that are coming down the pipes too that we have different groups working on. And so as those come in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring them to you. I'm going to allow you to try them. And then if you like them, I'd like to have your feedback. If you don't like them, I'd like to have your feedback so that I can take that back to the national level and say, in theory, this form looks fantastic, but it doesn't work because of these reasons, or it was fantastic, we loved it. So either way, kind of allowing you that opportunity, because it really, you're using the document, right? So it has to be useful. But that evaluation form will actually be a national form. So currently these are all Manitoba forms, but they will all be national forms. And the reason for that is because the practical evaluation is a national exit criteria. So that's kind of the way it works. So that's why there'll be national forms. Sorry, I've been doing all the talking almost this evening. Any more questions or thoughts?
I failed mine.
You failed
My
yours?
evaluator failed me. I was at Pan Am Pool and I was doing a fitness class for older adults. It was before they put all the green in, so when the sun came in upstairs, it was like 110 to 120 in the shade. And he came in and he told me that I didn't do a 20-minute aerobic workout with them. And I said, no, I didn't. The youngest is probably about 78 in my class, and I said they would probably pass out if they did a full 20 minutes. And he said, well, you didn't do 20 minutes because he said you're old and you're fat.
What?
I don't know who that was.
No, and I'm not saying either.
Tell us who that.
No,
Okay, so
no,
don't
no,
do that.
And then,
Don't do that.
then about,
Wanna call
then I
them.
asked for
Let's
another
go get 'em.
I
We
want
want
another
names.
evaluator to come, but about 15 years later, I got a call from this person, and they said, oh, somebody said you work with mentally challenged adults, and we're trying to get this program going, would you come and give us a hand? And I said, who is this? And they said their name, and I said, oh, I don't think you want me. And he said, fine. I said, well, I was that fat old fitness instructor 15 years ago. I said, I'm fatter now when I'm older. But I did go and I did help them, so.
I just swallow that jagged pill.
Any other questions or comments? Newbies, do you understand what the process is from here on out? We're good? Okay.
These forms available electronically right now?
They are not available for download, but we're in the process of getting that done. So they will all be up, and as the new forms come out, you will be the first ones to get them, so.
I am curious, as far as, Christine mentioned that with the conversation after the evaluation, that sometimes that can change, your opinion of how the actual class went.
Right. Give me an example of that?
Not necessarily an example, but how much are we looking to, if we see something that we didn't feel was safe or appropriate or missed, how much guiding or questioning are we trying to get? Because they are under a lot of stress and it's a tested situation, like maybe they do understand that, what they missed is something that they would do on everyday basis. So how much are we trying to dig to find out if they actually are aware of that missed information?
My own opinion is you want to dig as much as you can.
Yeah.
Like Steph said, it's not a pass or fail thing. You're trying to find out how much they know. And because of the situation there, when nobody's stressed out, so you ask a lot, for me, you would ask a lot of probing questions to find out, okay, and if they're innocent, they might, oh yeah, I screwed up here, I forgot to do this, or whatever, but they ask medium or probing questions, again, that's what you said.
If it was based solely on the paperwork alone, I would have failed numerous people. But it's in that 30-minute conversation that I spend with them afterwards or follow-ups where they pass. We would go, hey, pass, fail. I've only failed every one person in probably the 1,000 of evaluations that I've done.
Christine said, give them a scenario.
Yep.
If you think they know it, but you're not sure, give them a scenario. Let them explain it.
You can't expect them to do everything in just in that 1 hour. Like, they're not going to cover everything. They're not going to be able to spew it all out. It's
One
impossible.
thing that I didn't actually mention is pre-choreographed. So a couple years ago, we were getting a lot of requests for pre-choreographed evaluations. So they weren't coming up with the choreography, they were doing something that they either knew from another organization, and we are still allowing those. Reason why? They still have to do all the modifications. Okay, so they didn't put the program together, but realistically, could you have stolen it from Kathy Griffith? Or, whatever, right? I mean, you really could have. You could have just watched the video and written it down, right? It's about how
a good life for themselves.
yeah, it's about how you teach it. So it's about making sure that they are providing safe and effective instruction, that they are able to provide the modifications as they're required. So that's basically why we accept them. And we had a couple evaluators who felt very strongly for and against. So at this point, unless something comes up to say that we should not be, we still are. So if they say this is a whatever class that I got from, I don't know, Joe Bob's Fitness, that's okay. As long as they are teaching a safe and effective class and can modify and know the answers to the questions at the end.
I think too, it's really important for you to be there very, very early, so you can watch the instructor interact with their class that's coming in. That tells you a whole bunch right away. Somebody will come in, oh, that exercise you told me to try, I did it, oh, it really helped that, it really worked well. You just know whether they're caring, they're putting that little extra into it. Just because they screw up that one time when you're watching them, well, I screw up all the time when people watch me. I mean, and we all get nervous. I mean,
And there's
you have
also
to think of the potential.
And depending on the evaluation form that you have, some of them say that a maximum of 5 needs improvement, and that's where you would go over, that you would be incomplete. But again, using your own judgment and saying, wow, she didn't provide a modification here, but maybe she was, maybe if she's doing maybe she, at that point, she didn't feel that it was appropriate to stop the entire class to do the modification. If she had already told people to work at their own intensity, or, something like that, where she should have maybe provided a modification for someone who is struggling. So there's lots of different scenarios.
But you could say afterwards, on that particular exercise, could you give me another modification that you could use?
Yeah, or maybe
So
she
I
had,
get a
or maybe
verbal
she had done it another time and had forgotten. That's a big piece, right? They forget that they're supposed to be teaching like this is the first time. You're so comfortable, if you've been teaching this class for a while, you're comfortable with these people. You're not telling Sally to slow down and, and watch her, weights on the floor or something,
I had somebody do that at Great West Life. I did an evaluation and she had the music up so loud. And she said, oh no, I always have the music up. It's a lunchtime class. I really have to make them work hard. They want the music up really loud. So I said, I couldn't hear your instruction. I said, so you get somebody new to class, they can't hear you. And so I could tell the new people in the class, because they're like, oh, she can't hear her, but I'm going to watch that person. And they were like fumbling, and one lady just stood there in the middle of the class, like, I don't know.
It's okay, she just has to come for 2 months, she'll eventually get it.
That's kind of what her thinking was. And I said, like, I mean, it was
That is their
blasting.
philosophy though, that's what it is,
What
right?
did you do?
It was, what? What I do in the end, I talked to her and I said, the whole basis of teaching is that you have to be there for everybody. And you can't assume that, everybody walking in the room is the same person like all the time. It's like somebody new, hey, Lisa, first time here. I mean, shit, it was like we were at a social.
It is though.
And even when she was doing the instructions, right, I was like, my God, I can't hear anything you're saying. But the people that were there consistently